Hello and welcome once again to Ignite Your Impact. My name is Jen Rhodes. I am seated next to my husband, Matt.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. A couple of things. Number one, it is dark outside, so our lighting is a little bit different than we normally have on the episode. Number two, the dog is in here with us because I did all of my holiday baking. This episode drops on the Monday after Christmas. So I did all my holiday baking today, and I don't want the dog getting into it. So he's in here with us. So If you see a furry butt over my shoulder, do not be alarmed.
It's the dog. Yeah, you said it. Today, this drops on the 30th. This is our last podcast of 2024.
Wow.
Yes.
And this is number, what, 135?
Yes.
135.
Yeah.
Holy shnikes.
Yeah.
So as we wind out the year, we started looking at where we had been successful and where others in our circle are successful. And we usually start doing these deep dives, these deep reflections around October, November, like Q4, right? And kind of circle in on what we want to do in the new year and then put pen to paper over the holidays.
Yeah, and as we were doing this, there's one thing that it kept popping up in my mind. It really started to hit towards the end of November, early December, but it just kept popping up in my mind. And I am all about being positive because I believe what you put out in the universe comes back to you. And that's, language matters. So what we're going to talk today about is it's not negative. But I couldn't help but look around and see where Jen and I, where I personally, and where others in our circle and others outside of our circle were getting held back in areas. And it came down to really just one universal thing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I want everyone to think now back to 2024, over the last 12 months, and see if you can come up with some thoughts of areas that maybe the reason you didn't hit a goal. What got in your way, whether that's fitness, finances, relationships, doesn't matter what it is. I want you to think back right now of a couple goals that you had that you did not hit and what got in your way. And I'm going to pause for just a moment because I really want you to, what's coming to the top of your mind for a second. And as you're thinking about that, some of those things that may have just popped into your mind, depending on your goal, or maybe you weren't experienced enough in an area. Therefore, you couldn't hit that goal. Or closer to that, maybe you didn't have enough knowledge in that specific area to be successful. Maybe you didn't have enough money to invest in whatever it was that you were doing to make it really go. Maybe you didn't have enough money to market or hire good people or whatever it is. Maybe you didn't have enough time. That's a big one for Jen and I and probably everyone listening right now. That's our demographic. We're busy people. So maybe you just didn't have enough time to hit whatever that goal that was there. And maybe someone else didn't pull their part or do what they said they were going to do. And you didn't get to that goal because of that. Yeah.
I think of all those things that you said, I think of the examples that was pulling in my mind, I think everything resonated with everything you just said.
Yeah, me too. That's why I was saying, I was literally, those are the things I felt were getting in my way. We're doing some deep thought here, and I'm really doing some deep thought because I'm trying to figure out how to make 2025 the best year ever, where I hit all my goals and I'm successful. Big goals. How can I make it the best? What did I miss in 2024? And when I looked at us, I looked at me, I looked at everyone around us, it just came back to this one universal thing that got in my way and got in others' way. Excuses. It was just excuses. And I know excuses has a very negative tone because we're all taught that excuses are bad, and they are. But at the end of the day, we want to solve this, right? And everything that's getting in my way and your way and everyone else's way, it's really just an excuse. But we want to solve it. And the way to look at this is you got to drop your ego for just a few minutes. And you got to look at it on the macro level versus the micro level. You got to go out and look at it like overlook at it and look and see what was going on. And if you do that, you'll realize that you kept saying, these are the reasons, the time, the money, all these things. These were the reasons. They were actually just excuses. Again, at the time you called them reasons, but they were just excuses.
I'd like to point out that the dog, like the minute we started talking about this, like rolled over and just groaned like he totally has a mortgage and a job. Like this.
It was perfectly timed.
Like, y'all right there, bud? all none of your burdens. I'm sorry. I was trying really hard not to laugh. It's very serious. I want to dig into what you were talking about. Excuses. God, it's such a good word to use, though. It's perfect. That's a perfect. Now, let me tell you why that makes sense before we dig in a bit further. Those that had massive success in 2024 did not let anything get in their way.
Things got in their way. They just didn't let it get in their way.
Interesting. I like that reframe. Now, just like you, obviously, the people that succeeded could not control everything. We just, nobody can. But they found a way to get around it or through it because they would not let any excuse get in the way, right? Get so hell-bent on the outcome that it's just no matter what. Now, when something got in your way or my way in 2024, we didn't say, well, that's my excuse. We said, well, that's what stopped me. And it's a difference in language, but it is the same thing, which if you're a winner, you will realize that that was an excuse.
Yeah, another word that you said when we were preparing for this podcast was justification. So reason, justification, that's what got in my way, aka all of them are just an excuse.
Just allowing an excuse.
Yes. When you drop your ego and you look at it, you realize they were just an excuse. You didn't have time. You probably did things you shouldn't be doing during that time. Whatever it was, you probably were not so damn focused on the goal and you let time get in the way. But tangent there. Let's dive in a little bit here so that we can, I want to give some examples that's easier for someone to look at the macro level that we're going to talk about, and that'll help everyone get from point A to point B. And essentially, hopefully using these examples will help you eliminate some of the excuses that you may have had, because it's helped me so that 2025 can be the best year for you. And there are so many examples personally that I can use. There's so many examples that I've seen from other people this past year, and especially in business. And that's kind of the first one that I want to do is I want to throw out a business example that's so crazy to anyone listening probably, but the person who had the issue, it was not. It was an excuse. It was a reason, a justification. So to set this up, I think most of you all know, you should know by now, that the Phoenix Method. It's our online coaching, nutrition, and mindset company that Jen and I own. We also have brick and mortar gyms as well. And our brick and mortar gyms are a part of a large international group. So there's lots of other owners within that group. And just recently, we had a technology failure. Not a major one, but it's a technology failure, I guess is what you call it. And everyone knows when you go to a gym, you sign an agreement. Like at our gyms, we don't have contracts. We have 30-day agreements. Some have 12-month agreements. But you get it. You sign an agreement that I'm going to pay for the next 30 days. So the way that works today is when someone joins in one of our gyms or these other owners' gyms, it immediately goes to an iPad right in front of the consumer. The consumer signs it right on the iPad. Everything gets saved. It's all good to go. Well, it turns out that the iPads that our franchisor bought us years and years and years ago.
Yeah, it's like 6 or 7 years ago.
They're no longer compatible for Apple updates, which means the system will not allow for e-agreements to be sent to the iPad. But if you think about it, well, let me jump back in. When this happens, everyone was talking about it in our Facebook forum, but there were a couple owners, and one specifically that was saying that this technology failure on our franchisor's fault, which it wasn't, but whatever, was causing them to lose business because they couldn't get agreements signed. People were going to their competitors. Now, I want to tell you how crazy this is.
Laughable.
Just 2 years ago, we didn't even have e-agreements. Everything was on paper. But currently, right now, there are many workarounds for this. You can send it to their email. You can text it to them. You can do all these different things. They can pull it up on their phone and sign right there. So, point is it was an excuse for this person. Probably because their business was not going the way they wanted it to, so they had to find something to blame. It's easier to complain about a small problem than finding a workaround. It's easier to say your competition is kicking your ass than to get honest with yourself, stop making excuses, justifications, and reasons, and just say your competition's doing better than you. They basically were finding excuses of why they weren't getting the job done. So I want everyone,
that whole situation fired me up anyway, and I'm very proud of myself for not saying anything right now.
But we all do this, even though that sounds crazy. I've done it, Jen's done it, you guys have done it. I want you to think back over the last 12 months now about your business. And let me tell you, you do not have to be a business owner. But I'm assuming we all have jobs of some sort. Whether you own the business, whether you're an employee, it doesn't matter. But over the last 12 months, how many times have you thought to yourself or said, well, we didn't hit this goal or we didn't get this done or whatever it is because this other person didn't do their part? Or we didn't have enough money? Or we didn't have enough time? It's the same thing. How many times have you done that with business over the last year? We've done it, and it's just an excuse. Now, are excuses valid? Yeah. But don't you want to get better in 2025? Then you have to figure out how to eliminate the excuses.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying the dog snoring over our podcast, too.
See, I hear nothing over here.
That's good, because I'm just like, good God. So I want to talk of one specifically that we've talked about a few times, and I'm ready to put this finally to bed. It's been a year.
I know what you're going to talk about, because this is exactly the
dead
point.
Dead and buried. It dies with the year.
Yes.
Right? The marketing company that we hired for our Facebook page that got us permanently banned from running ads, and we couldn't run ads in January of 2024. They were a complete shit show. And because we paid them so much money up front, we stuck with them for a year and a half. For half the year.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Trying to fix it. Like 6 months wasted trying to justify the expense. So did we blame them for the slow start in 2024? Yes. Is it justified? Yes. Is it true? Yes. But at the end of the day, don't we want to win? Yes. So we scratch that. I need to take ownership for that and realize that it's not an excuse.
So now I can hear the dog. I couldn't hear him earlier. Now I can hear him. But let me jump in there, because when we were in the storm of it, we just kept saying it's their fault. Think about that. Has anyone done that? It's their fault. It's their fault. However, now that we stepped back, we started looking at what we need to do differently in this new year, and we looked at it from a macro level. We could have done so many different things than blame them, but we didn't.
Yeah. Well, in 2025, you have to tell yourself they aren't, and that's how you win, right? No matter what pops up, stop in the moment and say, okay, how can we pivot? How can we find a workaround? Like, shit, my motto in the last 5 years is pivot. Like, how do we pivot? The minute COVID was happening, I'm like, we got to pivot before it even, no, I don't think we're going to close down. I'm like, doesn't matter. We need a pivot. What if it does? We're ready, right? No excuse. In our marketing company example, if this were to happen in 2025, as soon as the storm starts, we are going to stop. We're going to breathe and say, no, we want to win. And blaming them as an excuse. So what can we do right now to pivot and gain control of the situation and get out of this storm?
And I want to stop right now and just hit everyone right between the eyes. This next year is no different than 2024. Mm-hmm. There's going to be 95% of the people who come up with excuses, justifications, and reasons. and they're in the same place as they were last year. Go back to our last podcast that we just talked about that. The scariest place to be is the same place you were the year before. However, there's going to be 5% of people who are going to take what we leave you here at the end, drop the excuses, and find a way around.
Yeah. That's a pivot.
Yep.
I'm a dancer. We like to pivot. There is no difference in your fitness, though. Let's do the same thing here. Take a minute and think about what got in your way in 2024. Right now, what pops in your head? Did you have to work late so you couldn't get a workout in? Happens to me. I'm at the gym till 7 o'clock every night. You think I want to stay and lift after that? Did your spouse not support you weighing your food? That doesn't apply to us. Did you have kids' activities so you couldn't get your steps in? Was it too expensive to hire a coach to show you how to do it efficiently? Yes. All that stuff does come up. Are they valid? Yes. But when you go on your beach vacation, or it's time for summer or spring break, or you go to the lake and it's time to put on some smaller clothing, or you go look in the mirror, does any of that matter? No, it doesn't fucking matter.
That's a great point.
It's an excuse. Now, again, are they valid? Yes, you're human. But in order to win in 2025, you have to think differently than you did in 2024. You have to pivot. You have to think, oh, okay, this has come up. How can I overcome this? Versus, well, it got in my way, so it is what it is. Oh, it is what it is. God, I fucking hate that saying. Now, you may be saying you don't understand. Go back to the business example. Didn't it sound ridiculous on what that owner was saying? Like, I'm still fired up about it, and I'm so happy I didn't share in the group. Very proud of myself. Any franchisees that listen, you're welcome, because I was ready to go off. It's a bullshit excuse. Sorry. Bullshit excuse. Like, seriously, go do fucking something else. Like, what member's going to stand there and go, I'm going to go over here because I can't sign an agreement. That's stupid. Like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah,
anyway,
but I'm telling you that
ridiculous.
It was not ridiculous to them. If someone would have looked at our marketing company, they would have said, Matt and Jen, you're fucking ridiculous. What are you doing? Step away. Go do something different.
You know
but
what's
to us,
funny?
It was not ridiculous.
People did, and we didn't.
Yeah.
How funny. Thank you for the reframe.
Yes.
I appreciate that. I stand corrected. I'm still fired up. But when you're talking about, when you're talking about yourself, it's tougher to say that.
Yes, it is.
Holy shit, you just totally reframed me.
Yeah.
Seriously, go do something else. Right? But you're so stuck in like, no, this has to work. But that's what you need to say in 2025 in order to win.
Yeah. And as we kind of wrap here a little bit, we've given out a ton of advice over this last year. And we've heard from a lot of you, especially in our DMs. Some of you have told us, man, I've done this one or these two things that you talked about and it's made all the difference. Or I've done a shitload of things that you've talked about and it's made all the difference and it's changed things for you. If that's you, if you're one of those people, keep doing those things and do this one additional thing. Now, if you're someone who's been listening to us for a while and hasn't done anything, or maybe this is you're new to the podcast, then just take this one little action that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. You don't have to set a bunch of huge, enormous goals, although I encourage that, but start small with just what we're going to review here in just a minute and see what happens.
Yeah. So here is how we set this up for us. You can steal this. You can lovingly lift this or adjust it as needed, but use this and see how it will change 2025 for you. The way to be the 5% is to own the outcome and find a way. So at any point in time, I feel resistance. Anytime that I feel something is getting in the way, anytime that I feel like I'm not getting close to a goal, or if something's taking me off of the goal, basically anytime things don't feel like they're going my way, it creates a trigger in my mind and basically a way to stop, breathe, and think. That is the trigger to remember and say this. I want to be unstoppable and get on a victory streak. And the only way to do that is to remember I am in control of the outcome by the actions I decide to take right now. Now, what is the next step I take right now to move past or through this?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I hope that when anyone's in one of those situations, just listening to this podcast and some of the things we said, this will be your trigger. And you'll stop and do what Jen just said. You'll stop and you'll breathe. And you'll talk through it and figure out, how do I get around this, instead of saying, this is the reason I can't get this done, or this is the justification. I love it. And as we close out this podcast and as we close out this year, I just want to tell everyone, number one, Jen, you've done amazing this year.
So have you.
Thank you. But I just want to tell everyone, we appreciate you supporting us, listening to the podcast. And we truly enjoy doing this every week and working and trying to create impact in all of your lives.
I love it. Let's just finish right there, guys. Happy New Year. And we will talk to you all in 2025.